Mixtapes.
The classic mixtapes.
Doing the mixtape thing.
Let me drop a mixtape.
Oh, mixtape.
The mixtapes.
This is the Art Behind the Tape Podcast. Hosted by
This
DJ Mars and Bril Ndiaye, covering the spectrum of the mixtape culture.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's DJ Mars. This is my partner right here.
Bril Ndiaye right here.
All right, and right now we are welcome y'all to the Art Behind the Tape podcast series.
Yes. The first mixtape series on the whole mixtape culture. We're giving you the podcast to go with it.
All right. So listen, this is the very first one. So what we wanted to do is introduce ourselves to you. That way you can get kind of, who the team is, who the players are behind the book. Again, I'm DJ Mars. A lot of y'all know me from Massachusetts, graduated from Clark Atlanta University, lived down here in the A, represent the A all the way to the fullest. And who are you, big girl?
I'm Bril Ndiaye, originally from Los Angeles, California. CAU graduate as well. I'm a radio vet, been in the radio game for over 15 years.
All right. So one question we're going to answer that I know you guys didn't have the time to ask because this is the first one. So I'm going to ask my man, Bril, why are we doing this podcast series?
We're doing this podcast series to highlight the mixtape culture. We started off with the book, The Art Behind the Tape, but we wanted to highlight the mixtape culture even more by going in depth with more artists, DJs, the retailers, people with executives, everybody that's been a part of the ecosystem that we call the mixtape culture. We want to do more about that. We want to talk more about that, I should say.
All right. So essentially what we're doing is interviewing each other, right?
You're right.
I know my man Bril, he has a whole different perspective than I have because he's from the West Coast. And we're in the same age range, but different demo.
Right.
So it's kind of cool. So you get somebody from the upper Northeast, you got somebody from the West Coast, strong West Coast, like he's so West Coast. When I go to LA, I call him, yo, Bril, how do I get to this sneaker spot? Bril, how do I get to this restaurant? How do I get to this mixtape spot? So it's really cool that the interviewees are interviewing each other.
Yes.
So just so y'all can get a little flavor, understand who we are. So that was question number one. My response to that question is we're doing this on some level to explore the stories that aren't the major stories in terms of mixtapes, right? So we have a Christmas list of dope people that we're going to interview.
Yes.
So we're going to get them on the show, number one, and we're going to dig in the crates. Not the basic questions and definitely not the basic DJs. We know who the gods are, right? But then there's other people who played a big role in this game. So we got that question. So, Bril, I'm going to ask you this, and then I'll kind of answer it myself.
Okay.
What was your first experience with mixtapes growing up as a kid from the West Coast?
Okay, I'm going to give you this answer in three parts because it's kind of different from me.
Uh-huh.
All right, the first part is growing up in Los Angeles, South Central Los Angeles, the names like SNS, Kid Capri, Clue, Ron G, all of them, their names were big on the West Coast, but their tapes weren't out there like that.
Mm-hmm.
So in the swap meets, we would go to the swap meets and we would find little mixtapes that had, records from the East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, and everybody in between, basically. So we would buy those mixtapes. And then there was a couple of DJs out there. DJ Rectangle was one of the big DJs out on the West Coast that did a lot of blending. That was really kind of the person we kind of grew up on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my first mixtape, I guess you could say I bought, was DJ Clue the Professional. That was my first official mixtape, basically.
That was, you talking about the album or the tape?
The album.
Gotcha.
That was my first official mixtape.
Uh-huh.
Now, when I got to Atlanta, I got the full experience because, Atlanta's a melting pot. So people from New York, people from the West Coast, people from Texas, people from the Midwest. So on Clark's campus, the first mixtape I remember buying was DJ K Slay, Dipset Volume 1.
That was your first tape that you purchased in Atlanta?
That was the first tape I purchased in Atlanta.
Wow.
Yeah, so I remember that time, Cameron was buzzing at the time, Dipset was buzzing at that time, and I wanted to, get more Cameron, so that was the first mixtape I bought.
So clearly there's a difference in age, right?
Right, exactly, yeah. So
I'm an OG, he's a young OG. So how old are you?
I'm 39.
So he's 39. So that's a 10-year, that's a big difference.
Big difference.
Clue the Professional, the album. What year did that drop?
1998. I remember it like it's yesterday. Because I remember at the time I was a Rockefeller fan. I was buying anything Jay-Z, Memphis Bleak, Beanie Siegel, anything Rockefeller put out, I was buying it. So I remember DJ Clue hearing about him, from just the buzz about him. And I remember I was like, yo, I gotta cop this album. I remember buying it from the Almost Swap Meet Tower Records.
Wow. So what made that we'll still call it a tape, even though it was an album, but let's call it a tape. I felt like what made Clue's albums different, and we could probably get into this a little bit later, is Clue always put like a dope R&B record on the album so that he could take that album or that R&B record to the radio. So other DJs who were making mixtape albums, sponsored by a record label, they weren't doing that.
Okay.
Like I remember Mr. Magic put out volumes 1, 2, maybe 4. Red Alert goes berserk. Then he put out a reggae compilation. Flex had his joints, his solo joints, and the joints with Big Cap, but they didn't feature an R&B joint. Even Drama and Khaled, they may have sold more than Clue collectively on the album side, but they just didn't include the R&B joint. Clue was always super, super smart, and he put an R&B joint on the tape so that he could take it to radio so that it had, like he had Back to Life with Mary J. and Jadakiss. Crazy. And then he had the joint with Maya and Jay-Z, Best of Me remix.
Right, of the Backstage soundtrack.
Yeah, crazy too. So when I looked at Clue, I was like, to me, that's part of the difference between his album catalog and other DJs, their catalogs.
Very true.
So I respected that. So we got your answer. So my experience with mixtapes growing up was slightly different because at the time that I was listening to hip hop via cassette, they weren't called mixtapes at the time. So being from Springfield, Mass, we either listened to Cold Crush tapes, Grandmaster Flash tapes, or we listened to local crews from around the way, like the Homeboys. They would have a tape. They would record them live in the park jams at the Blacktop, and we would get those, and that was how we was listening to hip hop via cassette back then. So if I had to put a timestamp on that era, that was anywhere between 80 and 82 that I remember. And the kids around my way, the older kids, obviously, they would have a copy of a tape. Somebody in Springfield got a relative that lives in New York, right? So someone was always going to New York every weekend to grab a tape. So they would come back around the way and we would listen to it.
Okay.
And then you would ask the older cats, let me
dub it.
Yeah, let me dub it. Of course, they wouldn't let you do it, but you at least, you would hear of that. You would hear that tape while you're sitting on the block, sitting on the stoop, or you're playing football or playing basketball. Those were like my first memories. And again, they weren't called mixtapes. It was just, you had a Cold Crush tape,
right?
Or you had a Treacherous 3 tape, or what have you. But that's where my memories came from. They came from that zone.
Okay. Let me ask you this question now. What were some of your favorite mixtape DJs?
Favorite mixtape DJs, God Level Capri,
right?
God Level Brucey B, God Level SNS. Also enough respect, obviously, to Chubby Chub, Doo-Wop, Ron G. But then my secret weapon, and I say this is my secret weapon because people knew about the team that I'm about to mention, but G-Bo the Pro and Double R. Because those blends, them Puerto Rican brothers used to have them blends so on fire. Respect to Test Smooth too. There's some history we're gonna get into with Test Smooth too. So those are like my favorite guys. So I was from Massachusetts, but the Harlem Cats that's who I was listening to.
Okay,
that's who, you know what I mean. That's who I was learning from. Obviously, Craig G, my man I Rock. I believe if I didn't, definitely Chubby Chub with the Chubby Chub Dubs. That's who I listened to at first.
Okay.
What about you?
For me, well, I'm a different era, so I have to say DJ Clue, of course, K Slay. This is with the mixtapes that are, track-driven mixtapes, so basically individual tracks. DJ Clue, K Slay, Don Cannon was my favorite ones growing up, not growing up, but in college, listening to him, a lot of his mixtapes. Let's see, who else? There's so many mixtape DJs out here. So, but those are the three I can really say that I really rock with heavy on a regular, consistent basis. DJ Clue, K Slay, and Don Cannon.
Got it. So we got the list of favorite mixtape DJs. Let me ask you this. What are some of your favorite mixtapes, like specifically? I know my answer, but I want to know what yours is.
Okay, there's so many mixtapes to think of. All right, so I gotta say, Don Cannon's Sample Clearance was a classic to me.
Crazy.
Because the way he blended the classic samples with the originals, with the new records. I love that. J Period, Best of Nas, Best of Lauryn Hill. Those, I mean, that was just amazing how he did that. He put the audio of an interview from Nas and then incorporated it with the mixtape and the best of. J Period, definitely a classic one. The G Unit collection, of course. The whole G Unit series. What else? Dipset, their series with K Slay. Those are the ones that I really, really rock with heavy.
So if I had to break down the list, I would say my favorite mixtape of all time, period, Kid Capri Old School Part 2. Period. That's Holy Grail. That's Michael Jordan of mixtapes.
Right.
I would say Kid Capri Part 2. If I had to go with a series, it would either be, this is a tie, right? It would have to be DJ Drama's Automatic Relaxation and then Jamad's. DJ Jamad's series was bananas.
I forgot about Jamad.
Yeah, so we're talking catalog. Jamad. If you're in Atlanta and you've been here since the 90s, you know the Automatic. This is when this is before Gangsta Grills.
Before
Gangsta Grills. Like, so sonically, they were both a fusion of neo soul and let's call it neo soul hip hop. So you would hear anything from Slick and Rose to Dwelle to Early Dilla to Erykah Badu, all on each of their tapes, either Jamad's or Dramas. You know what I mean? So that's why I said both of them. Like this was at the time when the hip hop side of mixtapes, I kind of got past that in a sense, and I'll explain that later. And I was looking for something different to listen to.
Right.
Those were definitely top tiers. So it wasn't one specific title from each of them. Those categorically, that category, that series was dope. SNS, Get Your Swerve On, I believe Part 2, another one of my favorite joints. There's no way I can't mention Ron G's mixes 1 through 15. Yeah, like we gonna get into that in a second. And then Doo-Wop, like
95 Live?
Yeah, 95 Live. Ooh. But that's an easy one. Like if, you don't even got to be ahead to say that. You know what I mean?
That's a classic right there.
Yeah. So, those are some of my favorite mixtapes. So my question I'm going to throw to you is, how do you think mixtapes have helped hip-hop as a whole and then the artists? Like, how do you think mixtapes help both of those categories out?
I think the mixtape game, I think it's described kind of like, how the 5 elements of hip hop are. I think like mixtapes is like the cousin, the 6th element that you really don't mention. Hip hop mixtapes have really just like impacted the culture, whereas it spread the culture throughout the world. I mean, like you said, people from Springfield would go down to New York for the weekend, come back up with a tape. That's how it would spread. So I think that's how mixtapes have really spread and helped the culture. How it's helped the artists. I think it's helped artists the way that it's been able to balloon them and platform them to whole other stages. I mean, it's put their music on a platform and watch it take off, like Drake, freestyles from different artists like that on the Doo-Wop 95 Live series. Nicki Minaj has used the mixtape series to take it to a whole nother level. So I think the mixtapes have taken the artists to a whole nother level, whereas it's bigger than what the labels have done.
Yeah, I got you. Honestly, the same answer. Mixtapes have made it so that music can move through the globe without the red tape.
Right.
Like, and it's systematic. One time, I remember I was in New York. I was on tour with Khalees, and we were rehearsing in New York on Sunday. My man DJ Corrupt met me at rehearsal. He gave me a stash of his tapes. He had come from Canal Street up to the rehearsal studio, Midtown Manhattan. Gave me his tapes. He's like, "Yo, I know you're going to London tomorrow. Here's some tapes. Do me a favor. Go to the spots. Just give them away for me."
Wow.
I got to London. Let's say I got to London Monday evening, and I hit the ground running Tuesday. By the time I got to the spots in London on Tuesday, they already had his tape.
Wow.
And this was because he dropped them off on Canal Street. So the information superhighway, let's call it that, the mixtape internet was Canal Street. So he dropped the tape off to Canal Street first, gave it to me. By the time I got to the tape spots in the hood in London, they already had his tapes.
Wow.
That's So when you talk about music moving globally
Right.
via the tape, the cassette, it was probably a CD at the time. That's how it was moving. It was it was a beautiful thing.
Right.
Now, Corrupt felt the way because the block hat in London had his tape before he was able to do his thing with it. But that's hip hop.
That's how it is. That's how it is.
Yeah, that's
Hand
how
to
it is.
hand.
Yeah, that was super hand to hand. So them bootleggers, and we're gonna interview some of the bootleggers on the podcast coming up.
Right.
Now here's the next question. How are mixtapes important today? It's 2023. There's a bunch of things out there, a bunch of assets and tools that artists use aside from just the physical DJ. But so how are they important today?
I think they're important today because they still have an important place when it comes to the culture, when it comes to dropping new music. I think a lot of artists like DJ Drama still uses the mixtape platform to platform artists and to let the artists know, let the world know about new artists like Simba. He did that with Simba this year. Crazy mixtape. So
That
I think
kid is a problem.
he's a problem. Yeah, he's a problem. He's a problem for real. West Coast representative for real. But I think the mixtapes are still important today because it still has the platform of a blend tape, an artist-driven tape, artist direct tape. So basically, I think those are still important because the mixtape culture is still needed in the culture.
So I'm gonna say something. People are gonna be mad at me when they watch this. The mixtapes are important, but I feel like the mixtape DJ isn't as important. Because artists can make a tape today. They don't even need a DJ.
They don't need a DJ, yeah.
They need a DJ. They don't necessarily use a DJ. So the mixtape itself, the medium, the platform, the art form is super important. But the DJ is, and we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
The DJ isn't as important in terms of making a tape. Like, so you look at the Weeknd, right, with his early tapes, the House of Balloon tapes.
Oh, right.
Didn't use a DJ at all. Drake's tapes, no DJ. And I'm not talking about the ones that the DJs themselves did, but some of the early ones.
So far gone.
Yeah, no DJ involved right there. It's literally just artist-driven tapes. So I believe the tape, as to your point, and I agree with you 1,000%, the tape is super important. I think the DJ's equation isn't as important, which is whack. I'm a DJ and I'm gonna say it first, is whack. But I feel like that's the wave in 2023.
It's crazy how the game has changed because I remember back in the early hip hop, DJ was the first person you mentioned, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. And, you know, DJ Polo and
Coogee Rap.
Coogee Rap.
Yeah.
Now it's like
Eric B. and Rakim.
Exactly. Now it's the opposite. So it's like the DJ's always been important in hip hop and he still is important in hip hop.
Yeah. So, you know, this conversation between two guys who've been studying the game for a minute. So listen, I got another question to ask you. You kind of tapped into it earlier. What's your favorite type of mixtape? You got the artist-driven tapes, you got the best of, you got the blend tapes, you have the best of the radio tapes. Like, what's your favorite kind?
I think my two favorite kind are best of and blend tapes.
Wow.
Best of because it just has a collection of one artist. So, you know, best of Common, the best of, you know, like I said, best of Nas with J Period. I like how listening to the whole artist collection and just hearing how the DJ plays with the music and puts it together. The blend tapes I love because it's something you can listen to and ride out to, basically. Like Ron G, going back and listening to his R&B tapes, or listening to, you know, multiple blend tapes that multiple DJs put out. I think those blend tapes are perfect. Those are my favorites right there.
I would say, I don't know. I feel like the mixtape that sounds like a party, and I don't know if that's a category. So I felt like with Kid Capri's Old School Part 2, like I said, that's like my Michael Jordan of mixtape. The reason why I like that, it's a category, it's an old school tape, so he's playing old school music. What I liked about it is from a DJ standpoint, I felt like that tape taught me how to DJ. Now, I was already doing my thing in high school, doing my thing in early college, but listening to that tape, and I feel like any DJ who is a DJ and you play black music, that's the tape I feel like you should listen to learn how to rock. First of all, he's showing you how he gets in and out of records, number one. He's showing you mic control, number two. And then he's showing you how to play an old school set. No one's going to give him the credit because he definitely wasn't the first one to play Before I Let Go. But I feel like listening to him play Before I Let Go and records like that taught DJs, because it taught DJs how to play those records. We weren't playing Before I Let Go in a club. Like,
Right.
I'm gonna keep it all the way funky. Like that wasn't a staple prior to that. Now, in New York, that was probably a staple. They have a different love affair with music, but generally, the country was not playing that sound
Right.
like that. So let's say the tape. I'm giving the tape a year, and it may not be the right one. So Capri, please correct me. Let's say it came out in 91, right? Before I Let Go, I'm trying to remember when that record came out.
78, maybe.
Yeah, so maybe. So the record was old, but it wasn't that old, right?
People remember it.
Yeah, they remembered it. I feel like he brought it back out to make you say, yo, I gotta play that.
Gotcha.
Like the way he was playing Somebody Else's Guy, the way he was playing the Michael Jackson set on the B side of Old School Part 2. He it came out in 1981 to be corrected.
Real quick. Stephanie Mills, the remix he did, was that on that tape too?
Something The Way You Make Me Feel. That was I don't remember if that was on the tape. I don't think so. That was a joint he did at a party that ended up on the tape because he would record it. So it wasn't a remix. It was a live blend, like which was to, all right. Now we talk about categories. Go back, to the blend tapes. Ron G mastered that. Like there was other blend tape DJs. There's Grandmaster Vic, the Amazing Duet, represented Queens. It was something different, or maybe because he was young and his voice was brighter. Like it was just something different. I don't know, man. We can talk for days.
For days.
But what I mean, we can talk for days about it.
Right. Let me ask you this: what's your favorite mixtape moments?
Yo, okay. So it was, let's say it was 93, 94. I was on the road with Usher, promo tour, and Shanti Das, the label head at LaFace, said, yo, I'm going to introduce you to doo-wop. So now, this is 93, 94. I was already a fan of
his collection.
Yeah, his collection was stupid. So that was the first time I met him. So peep it. That same week, I met Ron G, met doo-wop, met Flex, because I was running around in New York with Usher. So when you're on a road with an artist, the relationships that you grab and build are a little different because you're on a road with artists. So when I met them dudes, I was like, I thought they were superheroes already. Like I tell Craig G this story. Craig G and Goldfinger used to work at record store in Brooklyn, B Street in Brooklyn. The first time I went to the store to buy records, I met Craig. He was in there. I thought my records were better because I was buying them from Craig G. Like I thought the records were actually better because I was purchasing. So I know I gave you a bunch of moments, but for me, growing up in the way I did, meeting those guys in that period, that time, I don't remember when I met SNS. I'm sure it was one of those moments too. First time I met Brucey B was at a party in Atlanta. He and I were doing together. So all of those moments, you put them in a capsule. That would be my answer. What about you?
All right, my mixtape moment for me is Nas Ether. I remember freshman year, our RA, Khalil from Philadelphia, had the mixtape, and he said, yo, y'all need to come to my room right now. Y'all got to listen to this record. Nas is going in on Jay-Z. I remember all the guys from my floor came down to his room, and we were there listening to him, and we were just like, yo, Nas, I forgot whose mixtape it was on. I want to say it was a K-Slay I can't remember whose mixtape it was on, but it was on the mixtape. It just came out because I know Nas and Jay-Z went back and forth with little freestyles. But when Nas Ether dropped, oh man, that was an amazing moment right there. That was the moment I remember sitting. I remember exactly where I was at when I heard that record, and I was like, yo, Nas is going in.
That was you said that was your freshman year?
That was my freshman year. It's 01.
Wow.
2001. I remember that like it was yesterday. I remember going to Khalil's room. He's like, yo, y'all got to hear this Nas record. We were all in there listening to it, and he was like, yo, Nas is on a whole nother level right now. Nas just won this battle with Jay-Z versus Nas.
So based on that tape, that was your decision. Nas took it.
Oh yeah, definitely Nas sticking with that.
Wow. So okay, so we got mixtapes, and then we got DJ albums. Give me a couple of your favorite DJ albums.
DJ albums, okay. Of course, DJ Clue's Professional. Gotta love that. Gotta give DJ Khaled. DJ Khaled has a great collection of music. He has a great collection. His albums are, he puts them together really, really well. I'm trying to think of anybody else. Funk Flex and Big Cap.
Live from the Tunnel.
Live from the Tunnel
joint. So, okay, I'm glad you said Flex. Because, was it 60 minutes, 90 minutes of funk?
90 minutes of
was that was the one, it was on Loud Records. And I love, and I got it, it made sense. It was all Loud Record instrumentals with freestyles from some of the dope rappers. One of my favorite freestyles was The Lox and Biggie on that joint. Another joint that was hot on that same tape was the Fugees joint. So that's top 5 to me. That particular
real quick. I got one off that album too. DMX freestyle over Mobb Deep. Give me the goods. That one right there was crazy. DMX killed that. Yo. DMX killed that Mobb Deep bill.
yo, that was crazy. Again, it was dope rappers over them loud beat. Like it made, and Flex was cutting live. Like it sounded like his radio show on Hot 97. That was crazy. I would say my number one, Red Alert Goes Berserk, the one with Bait by Ultramagnetic MCs. So Bait was a promo that he used to play on his show on 98.7 Kiss FM in New York. It was a promo that he would play by Ultra. Ultra, one of my favorite groups of all time. Anybody knows me knows.
Oh, I know.
Ultramag. Yo, if I could be at a party right now, I don't care where I am.
Right.
I could be in Ibiza. If I could play Ultramagnetic, I'd be a happy man. But so Bait was one of my favorite joints. He used to play it on the show, play it on his show, and then it ended up on that album. So that would be my number one. I think Flex would be number 2. Ironically, I don't know if I would have a Clue top 5. I don't know if I would have a Clue album in that listing. Okay. Definitely Clue tape if we're talking, tapes. Dramas, joints. And then what I loved about Khaled, more importantly, not one album title specifically, but how he dropped. So I remember We Taking Over, when I think that was his very first single.
Yep.
I remember he dropped it, whatever year it was around Super Bowl. Then I started to notice that he would drop records around big events. So let's say the first single dropped around Super Bowl. I'm making this part up because I don't remember exactly. Let's say the album dropped around Memorial Day. Then I would just pay attention to his release schedules, and it was always around big party weekends. And I get it because Memorial Day in Miami, that's when everybody went to Miami to rock. So he would drop albums and projects around big party weekends, and it made sense.
Yes.
So aside from listening to the music, I'm studying the marketing.
Right.
Because now we're in a bigger space, bigger budgets, everybody has to recruit. And I used to be like, yo, this dude is so smart. Like he would drop a music project, then he would go let's say if it was Super Bowl in Houston, we talked about that earlier. He would be in Houston rocking a bunch of parties, playing his big records. This party hosted by Khaled, T.I., Bun B, and those would be some of the artists on the album. So I said, yo, like his timing was perfect. I think he timed his releases better than most other people. And then his relationship with the artists and his relationship with with his fans and how he made sure the music was around big weekends. I love that, yo. I love
definitely.
that.
This is a small conversation we're having right now, just a little one-on-one we're having right now. This is going to be one of many conversations we're going to have about the whole mixtape culture, the whole mixtape gamut as it is. So, Mars, what you guys say?
Man, like he said it all, man. This is what we do. This is what we're doing. Follow us, like us, love us. We appreciate y'all.
Yes.
You follow me at DJ Mars 404.
Me, Bril Ndiaye, Brilndiaye 2.0. And don't forget to follow the page Art Behind Tape on Instagram and social media platforms as well.
Yep. So we here, man. We're gonna be here forever and ever and ever and ever, like Harris once said, and ever. This is the very first one. So all our early believers, this is what it looks like when we jumped out the gate. We coming here to rock with you, man. The art behind the tape.
Yes.
It's the DJ Mars, my man.
Bril Ndiaye right here.
God bless y'all. We
Salute.
love y'all. Hey.
Peace.